Everyone, this is Tricia Thompson from Gluten-Free Watchdog. At the end of October, I gave a presentation at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Food and Nutrition Conference and Expo on facial misbranding of gluten-free foods. At the beginning of November, I gave a mini version of this presentation at a celiac conference sponsored by the National Celiac Association. So today I'm going to run through the mini version of that presentation and hold up a printout of each of the slides. Hopefully this works. So what exactly do we mean by facial misbranding? At Gluten-Free Watchdog, we use this term to describe a product that is labeled gluten-free, yet the ingredients list includes an ingredient that is not allowed in foods labeled gluten-free. Unfortunately, when we come across instances of facial misbranding, they tend to involve the same ingredients appearing over and over and over again. And these ingredients include barley malt extract, barley malt syrup, barley malt vinegar, and wheat-based soy sauce. So I'm going to run through a few examples of products that have been reported to us by consumers. This first one is a soup mix. It is labeled gluten-free, but beer is included in the ingredients list, and malted barley is included in the sub-ingredient list. This next product is an ice cream. It's also labeled gluten-free, but dry malt extract is included in the ingredients list. For those of you who are not aware, under the FDA's Code of Federal Regulations, the ingredients malt extract, and malt syrup are all made from barley. If another grain source is used, it should be declared in the ingredients list, so you would see corn malt or sorghum malt. So this dry malt extract is presumed to be dry barley malt extract. The next product is a potato chip. It's also labeled gluten-free. Yet malt vinegar powder is included in the ingredients list. And again, this malt vinegar powder is presumed to be barley malt vinegar powder. This is a soup, also labeled gluten-free, but soy sauce is listed as an ingredient, and wheat is included as a sub-ingredient of the soy sauce. This is a cookie. As you can see, it's labeled gluten-free. Yet whole wheat flour is included as the first ingredient. This is a couscous salad. It's labeled gluten-free. It's hard to see the gluten-free claim, but it's right by the consumer's thumb. It's also hard to read the ingredients list, but couscous is the first ingredient. This couscous was confirmed to me by the manufacturer to be a wheat-based couscous, but unfortunately, wheat is not declared in either the ingredients list or a contain statement. So these are just a few of the products that have been reported to us by consumers. If you're interested in seeing more examples, lists are available online, including in our FDA petition and in a supplement that we filed on that petition. And I've also been maintaining a running list of facially misbranded products reported to us since the close of the petition. It says 24 products have been reported to us to date. I think it's closer to 30 at this point. As we add products to the list, it is forwarded to the FDA so that they can see what we are seeing. So what type of regulatory action is actually taken against manufacturers who facially misbrand their gluten-free products? There are two places that I know to look for this type of information. The first is FDA's recalls, market withdrawals, and safety alerts page. Information is kept on this page for 3 years before it is archived. I did a search under gluten. There were 5 results. Only 2 results listed gluten as the actual reason for the recall, but neither of these recalls were due to facial misbranding. The other place I know to look is FDA's enforcement reports page. All recalls are included on this page after they've been classified as a type 1, type 2, or type 3 recall. I did a search under gluten from the beginning of 2016 through the end of August 2018. There were 25 recalls. 8 of these recalls were due to facial misbranding, meaning the product was labeled gluten-free but included an ingredient derived from wheat or barley. So the bottom line on regulatory action and facial misbranding is that based on the number of products reported to FDA by Gluten-Free Watchdog and the number of product recalls reported online, it appears, to me at least, that regulatory action is minimal for products that are labeled gluten-free, yet include in the ingredients list a barley ingredient or wheat-based soy sauce. So what exactly does FDA have to say about wheat-based soy sauce? This is the FDA from October 2017. Quote, if a soy sauce is made from wheat and soybeans, wheat is a gluten-containing grain and therefore cannot make the gluten-free claim. And what does the FDA have to say about malt ingredients? Quote, malt extract and malt syrup are ingredients derived from gluten-containing grains and containing gluten. Therefore, we would consider them as ingredients not processed to remove gluten, and they would not be permitted in foods bearing the claim gluten-free. So what can consumers do? They can make noise. But you have to make noise not only on social media, but to FDA directly. If you come across an FDA-regulated food on a store shelf that you believe to be misbranded, please take photos that capture the entire label. For FDA-regulated foods, it is really important to photograph the UPC code. The UPC code is the 12-digit numeric code that you find on product packaging. So once you have all of your photographs in front of you, you should contact an FDA Consumer Complaint Coordinator. There is a state-by-state listing available at the URL that's on this sheet of paper, or simply Google FDA Consumer Complaint Coordinator and the correct web page will come up. If you come across a USDA-regulated food that you believe to be misbranded, you should also take photos that capture the entire label. But in the case of USDA-regulated foods, it's really important to photograph the establishment number. The establishment number is the number that begins with the letters EST. This number is usually found in or near the mark of inspection, but it also may be inkjetted at the time of packaging. So this is the bottom of a can of meat-based chili that is under the labeling jurisdiction of the USDA, and there you can see the establishment number on the bottom of the can. So once you have all your photographs in front of you, you can contact the USDA. You can file a complaint by phone or online. So while it's really important for you to contact the FDA or the USDA when you come across cases of facial misbranding, We do want to minimize erroneous complaints. We don't want to flood the system. So I'm just going to run through a few instances when you should not report a product. You should not report products that you believe to be facially misbranded if you're basing your decision on what you see on a website. The information on websites tends to be wrong or outdated. So it's far better to contact the manufacturer and clarify that the ingredients list that you're seeing online is accurate. Or alternatively, go to the grocery store, find the product, check to see if the product has a gluten-free claim, read the ingredients list, and determine whether the offending ingredient is listed. And by all means, if you still believe the product to be facially misbranded, then reach out to the appropriate agency, but don't do it solely on what you see online. You also should not report perceived facial misbranding due to the presence of an allergen advisory statement for wheat on labeled gluten-free food. These are the statements that you sometimes see on product packaging that read something along the lines of processed in a facility that also processes wheat, processed on shared lines with wheat, or may contain wheat. All of these statements are allowed on foods labeled gluten-free. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this is an example of an allergen advisory statement. The product is labeled gluten-free. The second sentence there is a may contain statement for wheat. Again, this is allowed on foods that are labeled gluten-free. This product is not facially misbranded. You also should not report facial misbranding when a food labeled gluten-free includes the word wheat in a contain statement or the ingredients list as required under FALCPA, when the ingredient is considered processed to remove gluten and therefore is allowed in foods making a gluten-free claim. So ingredients that are allowed in foods labeled gluten-free that have been processed to remove gluten include wheat starch and wheat starch hydrolysates. An example of a wheat starch hydrolysate is glucose syrup from wheat. The FDA has stated that when a product is labeled gluten-free and the ingredients list or a contain statement includes the word wheat, then extra verbiage is required on that food label that states something close to the wheat has been processed to allow this food to meet the FDA requirements for gluten-free foods. Now, I don't think you're going to be able to see this very well at all, but this product is labeled gluten-free. It includes glucose syrup, and one of the sub-ingredients of the glucose syrup is wheat syrup. There is an asterisk after the wheat syrup that leads to another asterisk that has the required verbiage from the FDA that the ingredient has been processed to allow it to be included in a food labeled gluten-free. So what exactly are we doing to encourage the FDA to enforce the gluten-free rule? In August of 2017, we filed an FDA citizen petition requesting that the FDA establish a specific protocol for increased surveillance, investigation, and enforcement of potential facial misbranding violations under the gluten-free labeling rule. At the time I gave this presentation, we had a meeting scheduled with the FDA. That meeting has actually taken place. It was very productive. The FDA listened to us, and we will continue communicating with the FDA, and hopefully we will see some positive steps taken by the FDA to help put a stop to facial misbranding of gluten-free foods. In the meantime, while we wait for this to happen, it is my recommendation that you continue reading the ingredients list of food labeled gluten-free, that if you come across an instance of facial misbranding, that you alert the manufacturer, that you also contact the certifying agency if there is one, and that you contact the appropriate overseeing agency, either FDA or USDA. I cannot stress enough how important this is to do. It is the only way that these agencies will have a documented record of consumer complaints. If you are unsure which agency to contact, start with the FDA. They will let you know if the product is actually under the labeling jurisdiction of the USDA. And by all means, if you run into any difficulties, please reach out to Gluten-Free Watchdog for help. Thank you so much. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope that worked, holding up the slides. If not, I'll also post the slide deck, so just let me know. Thank you so much.